And welcome to Tomorrow. My name is Lisa and I have my co-host Jade with me here. This is Orbit 12.17 and today we have an amazing guest for you. I'm super excited to introduce Cody James. Cody James is a Forbes 30 Under 30 winner. He also is running a skills and training education company called OpenX Education that works on making aerospace skills affordable and accessible. He was also Boeing's youngest advanced robotics programmer ever. So without further ado, I just want to say, Cody, like, how do you even get to be starting your own education company? And like, I don't think you took a traditional path, right? Because did you go to college and finish college?
I didn't finish college, no. So I think any like startup or idea or anything, I think the most impactful ones come from somebody's individual experience. And when they have kind of a frustration through a certain process or a system that's existed, they go out and they try to create something that fixes it for other people so they don't have to go through it as well. So yeah, to answer the question, when I was in college, I only lasted about 3 or 4 weeks. The big problem for me was, so I started at about 14 teaching myself CNC, which is computer numerical control machining and inevitably programming as well. And when I was 18 to pay for college, since I couldn't afford it, I would work at a CNC shop after school. So school was like 7 a.m. to, I don't know, like 2:30 p.m. and then work was like 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. And what I saw when I was working was the technologies we were using, the software and everything else, it was actually like 10 or 11 revisions later than what I was learning at the community college. So when I saw that and I had like $1,400 and I spent like $1,300 on that quarter.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So I was like sweating nervously. And what I was learning in these classes was outdated technology. So I decided a few weeks into it that I was going to actually drop out, and I left college and I just said, I'm going to take that same amount of time and I'm going to devote it to learning whatever the latest skills are, the stuff that I see the CNC programmers using in industry, the stuff that I know that the big companies like Boeing and Lockheed and Northrop need. So yeah, that's kind of my college experience.
It's funny, like I was looking up at Forbes actually, was where I got this information. The average student debt per person in the US, this is US data, was about $38,000 per student.
That's insane.
So,
and that's kind of, I feel like, a lower estimate
Yeah,
too.
it fluctuates significantly.
It's kind of a conservative one, yeah.
And then, you like you mentioned, you pay all this money and you get all these skills out of it, except for the fact that it's 10-year-old skills.
Exactly, and then by the time you get your degree, so I'm sure you probably saw while you were learning these outdated, kind of skills in the classroom, is that, I mean, what's going to be the ultimate ROI on this? Like, you're $30,000 in debt, and now you have a degree, but then you're still probably, employment's not guaranteed essentially, because like you said,
huge, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like these skills, they tend to be outdated by the time you even graduate.
Yeah, and like we're kind of raised, at least in the United States, there's this socioeconomic structure where heavy on the socio, we really push like, oh, my parents said go to college, right? My parents said go through the university system.
Yep.
And I'm not against the university system. I think that it has phenomenal use cases, like medical, doctors, any highly crystallized, specialized field that should have a strong backed kind of like credential,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But the amount of jobs that are popping up, like programmers and robotics mechanics and CAD drafters and all these different things that don't really require somebody to have a degree, I think those will, really take over in terms of not needing to go through this long 4-year process, right? So,
and I think that's what's important here. I think a lot of our viewers, they might not work in the space industry right now, but that might be something that they want to get into. And like you just mentioned, like CAD drawers and people that use programs such as CATIA. These are where you can kind of skill yourself in something specialized so that you can take these aerospace jobs and get into this industry, even though you might not have gone through a 4-year degree in that. Because you ended up at an aerospace company.
Yeah, so when I was 19, I got into Boeing.
Wow.
So so what happened was when I was 18, I left college, right? And then the next 9 months, I just said, I'm gonna pretty much cut out everything social. So like not hanging out with anybody, partying or anything. And I downloaded every single manual I could find online, and with like my $90 Chromebook, I'd go to Starbucks because there was Wi-Fi there and we didn't have fast internet at home. So I would go there and just literally every single day replace all that college time with just downloading the information. Like, I think of classes as really you're sitting in a room and downloading information at a certain rate of speed, right? And the instructor is providing that information. He's uploading it to, or he or she's uploading it to 30 people or so. So that gave me the opportunity to kind of get all this information and then download it at the rate of speed that I wanted, and not at the rate of the slowest person on that given topic in a class, right? So while in those like Starbucks study sessions, I spent about 9 months just going through everything, machine fundamentals and programming and operating and maintenance, and just trying to get a holistic view as much as I could to really lay the foundation. And about 9 months later, after applying for about 210 jobs at Boeing,
Wow.
the logic was if I could get into even like a janitor position,
Exactly.
I could
Foot in the
talk
door.
to the manager that's in the CNC department or the NC or Robotics. I got picked up from the Robotics division for Composites, composite carbon fiber. And yeah, they offered me a job at 19. So
That's amazing. And was this a job that was previously like only open to college students or college grads?
from what I remember in the division, I was like one of 2 or 3 people without a degree.
So how were you able to demonstrate your certification or like your aptitude for what you're about to be hired for?
That's a good question. So I think the certification, kind of like the notion of certifications, is really odd. You show this piece of paper and it says, you know, I'm promising you with this letter that I know how to do a bunch of different things, right? And people take that at face value and say, okay, well, somebody has said that this person can do those things. But I like just kind of bypassing that and then taking those exact things and showing the manager.
Yes.
So the manager was there and he had like 3 or 4 technical experts in CATIA and robotics programming and composites. And I pulled out my phone and just started scrolling through, and I was showing them different models I made and parts, and I was
So like a digital portfolio kind of.
a digital portfolio, exactly. And
My goodness.
when they saw that, they were like, yeah, this guy's really, he read all the skills that are in the job posting, and he's walking us through each one, and if he doesn't know something, communicating how he's going to learn it. So that was how I communicated to the manager.
So you spent a lot of time at Boeing, which is an aerospace company, and you actually worked on some aerospace projects, is that right?
Yeah.
So what was your highlight of your total experience at Boeing, and then why did you choose to leave?
Good question. The highlight at working at Boeing was working on, I think, the Delta IV cryogenic fuel tank using automated fiber placement. It was a Boeing-NASA collaboration, and I thought that it was just really interesting seeing such a large robot expedite the rate of manufacturing of something as laborious as composite carbon fiber. So I thought that was just impactful into kind of my own personal insights of how robotics can change a given industry. And I think that was definitely one of the coolest projects. The reason why I left was while I was at Boeing, I would listen to all these different managers talk about, we can't find people for composite layup. We can't find people that can program robotics. We can't find people who can maintain them. And every department I would go to, every division, every plant, people would be complaining about it. And it wasn't concentrated to just Boeing. As you go through the supply chain that provides to Boeing, it becomes larger and larger of a problem. And I was looking at it and I was like, well, what is the training industry like? So you look through it, and let's take one skill, for example, CATIA. That computer-aided design software is used at more companies worldwide than all of the others combined. So that's 2,800 in the US, 802 in India, and approximately 1,200 in the UK. For one computer-aided design software, it employs just a significant amount of people. And the training for it, if you want to learn that advanced skill, is between $4,000 and $6,000. You can Google it right now, go through the different options. So you have to pay a lot of money up front, and you have to travel somewhere like Salt Lake City, Utah in the United States, or you go to Seattle, Washington. And the training opportunities are very low, which creates a supply and demand issue. The demand may be high in industry, but the supply is low. So I had this idea of, what if you could just hire experts in the field and have them teach a holistic course, and you make it very engaging and fun and entertaining, and you don't put it for thousands, and you're able to lower it down for just a few $100s, so anybody around the world, from the comfort of their home, because it's online, can just get on and start learning this advanced skill set and get a support community and get access to industry mentors and so on. So I wanted to make that idea, but funds would be limiting, right? That's a highly capital intensive concept. So I left Boeing to go contracting and consulting out in aerospace. I had a few offers. I went out to the Midwest for a little while, over in Kansas, and I didn't like that much. And
I don't think many people like Kansas, right?
Hopefully there's no viewers there. Okay, so I bounced really back.
I love Dorothy. Yeah.
Bounced back to Los Angeles really quick, and stayed here ever since for the last like 2.5, 3 years, and used kind of consulting and contracting in aerospace to accumulate the funds to be able to build the project.
And so now we have OpenX Education, and you're running these affordable programs that people can do to learn these skills that are so necessary in aerospace. Right. And you built up all this expertise in doing advanced manufacturing of composite materials like carbon fiber. Carbon fiber is one I really want to focus on here, because if you watch New Zealand, you might see that there's an entire rocket made from carbon fiber. And then, SpaceX's Falcon 9 has a carbon fiber interstage. We have carbon fiber overwrap pressure vehicles that hold helium in a variety of different vehicles. We're basically using carbon fiber pretty much all over the aerospace industry. So, if this is a skill that maybe someone at home would like to learn about, if they come to you, how do they learn how to be an expert in carbon fiber and get a job in places like Virgin Orbit or Rocket Lab or SpaceX?
So I think to get something that can really impact the most amount of people, because there are so many jobs that are open for composites. It's just like you go to any company from Boeing or Lockheed Martin or Virgin Orbit or SpaceX, and if you look through the job openings, you'll see hundreds of composite technicians and then composite engineers, and just every category or subset of that one technology, because it's really a manufacturing heavy process, composites are. So we made the course. That one was actually one of our first courses, because it's so high demand in industry and there's no real opportunity to learn it online. We made it so anybody can join it with no background knowledge. And we kind of go through and we relate everything that we can to different normal things.
Nice.
So I think it's important to work off of kind of like in an analogous way. You work off of, let's take a t-shirt and it has fabric in it. And imagine that fabric has a directional kind of strength, if you will. And then you can introduce, let's say super glue, and then the super glue will harden and make it into this very strong kind of sheet. These are the same fundamental principles of how composite carbon fiber works, but in a more tangible way, like something we all kind of get, right?
Yeah,
we all understand super glue and
t-shirts.
And t-shirts, right? So the difficult part about certain courses like composites is that's a hands-on process, right? And you're trying to teach it online so you can reach as many people as possible. And I read this paper, and it's from 1995 by a guy named Neil Fleming. So he asserts that there are 4 different primary modules of learning. It's V, A, R, and K. So there's visual, somebody who learns by watching. There's auditory or audible, somebody who learns from listening. So those 2 you can already tell that's people who do great in school, good at lectures, right? Then there's reading, and somebody who can get sucked into a book and then they can download information at a high bandwidth through that. And then there's kinesthetic. So kinesthetic is hands-on learners. Personally, I'm very kinesthetic in reading. Those are my 2 strong suits, but we're all a mix of different categories in there. So how do you take something that's a hands-on skill, and how do you put it into every single person's home so they can make something, and so they can go into an interview and then show the hiring manager, look, I don't just have a piece of paper that says I can do this, but I made a panel out of composites, and I can explain how I did it.
There's a fantastic question from the chat room here asking, it's from Chris Adams on YouTube. They asked, I played with wind tunnels in Penn State. How can you do that on your own?
That's a great question,
Another, I guess that they're kinesthetic learner to be able to go and use that kind of equipment. So
Good question.
If you're at home and you're taking one of the OpenX Education courses, you can't just go out to a wind tunnel and kind of practice.
You gotta have a big home.
Yeah, lots of energy.
So then how do your students get to experience this hands-on learning?
Yeah, so, and the model is not going to work for 100% of different skill sets. Wind tunnels and aerodynamics, the closest you would get is simulation in a computer-aided design software. But that's actually a really good point. How do you take skills that are heavily mechanical, like take up a lot of space and are difficult to traditionally get near, and how do you put that into every single person's home? So we have a course for robotics, and what we did with that is, how do you put a robot in every single person's home? So what we did was, we set up this cell with the robot, and it's a Fanuc robot. We really, really like Fanuc. It's the world's largest robotics company. And we put up a camera and then a FTP server, file transfer protocol server, and anybody who's taking the course can simulate their program in a software. And then they can extract the program and then upload it to the server, and the camera will start on a live video. It'll capture their program running and then performing, pour a beer or a coffee or something.
Oh my gosh.
And there's a TV on the back that'll say, like, this is Lisa's program, right? This is Jade's program. And the video will record your actual program running. So that person now has a robot what feels like in their home.
Yeah.
But they have the recording so they can show other people.
And hiring managers as well.
Oh my goodness.
So
I want to do that.
I know. I was like,
You
I
guys
kind of
can
want to go program my own now.
Or we could get one for the studio of tomorrow, and all our viewers could
I think
upload
we
programs
need
to it.
Oh my gosh.
What have we
I'll
started?
set
And
you
then we
guys
can
up
have a
with Fanuc.
talent show.
Yeah.
Oh my God, like a robot talent show.
Oh my goodness.
That's amazing. So going back to OpenX Education and kind of like your whole format and whatnot, we had a good question in the chat from Jared, our very own Jared Head, actually, about, so we're kind of, I think a lot of people are familiar with the onslaught of different online-based education sources. So how's OpenX different from programs like Khan Academy or MIT edX?
Yeah, great question. So when I was in those Starbucks study sessions, right, MIT's edX was like the platform I used. It's how I went through and learned at a better environment for me, math and engineering, and I went through the physics courses that are kind of like open source there. Those platforms are so critical. Like we have to protect those. They're so important. The difference is these teach you fundamental skill sets. We're teaching more crystallized into different niches. So anything that's considered an advanced skill. So as an example, like for programming, we don't have a Python course. There are a lot of Python courses, but we do have like a Fanuc robotics programming course.
Okay.
That's a very niche
very
skill.
specific.
Typically, we'll take anything that has historically been $3,000 to $8,000, and currently is $3,000 to $8,000, and then we've pretty much lowered it by about 90 to 95%.
Oh, wow.
So,
My
like the Composites course, instead
That's
of
so
paying $2,500, which is standard, if you go somewhere and learn, ours is like $249, and then we built a membership similar to how you guys have the Patreons in a sense, and then those people get it even further, 25% off. So.
And are there any kind of, do you have any partnerships with any colleges or universities that might give credit for these courses that you provide?
We don't have any that provide credits right now, but it's something that we've looked into a lot. So the dean of University of California, San Diego, and we meet up like every single month or two, Mary Wolshock, and she's a huge supporter of the idea. For her, university is, and if I could take something from one of our conversations, university is something where there's a high focus in academia on research. And the research is, it's really what they kind of like can perpetuate their model off of. And what she'd like to see more in the future is more of an industrial focus. If we go back to your comment about you're not guaranteed a job, I think that universities, community colleges, training schools, anything should be portals to get you into a job. I think that should be the primary focus. So, yeah.
And the courses that you have now, you've got robotics, you've got CATIA, you've got composite materials.
Yeah.
Any others?
Yeah, two more. So CNC, computer numerical control machining, and we'll be getting into programming in that as well. It's important to note, like, when somebody signs up for the course, we actually push updates like every 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
We believe that, like, technology is going to develop.
Yes.
So if you sign up for something, you shouldn't have to pay for DLCs or buy a new one when it gets better. It should just get better. And it should just give you an email that says, hey, we've included this, this, and this. So the CNC will now include more programming. And then we have 3D design, which was, it's like how do you design architecture, buildings, and skyscrapers. So
like prototyping and whatnot. And
exactly, yeah.
very cool.
So for those people at home that might be interested in learning a little bit more of what these programs actually have to offer, you actually very kindly brought a carbon fiber starter kit to us today. First of all, can you tell us a little bit about what is the starter kit and how does that fit into like the way you run your courses?
Right, so this was a pilot program that we came out with to address the V, A, R, and K. So we're trying to hit all of those, right? And we got visual and auditory down. We have reading down. There's plenty to read. There's plenty to watch, videos and everything. How do you get the kinesthetic, right? This is how you get it. So the starter kit.
Open it?
Go for it.
Yes.
Christmas
Like a live
morning.
Like an unboxing, yeah, okay. So we have some bubble wrap.
That is lovely.
We're not going to play with that.
My favorite
Beautiful.
part.
And would you like to open that?
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
you
like
have
legit
the
carbon fiber.
beautiful logo.
Is it actually
Yes.
legit carbon?
Absolutely.
Yeah, look at it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I know a certain CEO who would love this.
So go ahead and open it as well.
Oh, okay.
Anybody around the world, basically, as time goes on, and we have the
Smelling it?
Sorry, go ahead. Kinesthetic, olfactory learning.
yes, yeah.
Wow.
So the edges are taped because carbon fiber is woven.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So this prevents.
Can I touch it?
Yeah.
Yeah, pull the whole thing out, unroll it. There we go.
It's so soft. This is, oh my God, this is amazing.
Don't recommend making a blanket out of it, but
It also comes with epoxy resin
yeah.
and polyvinyl alcohol.
Of course.
Yeah, so the purpose of the polyvinyl alcohol is when you go to lay up composite carbon fiber, so it's a fabric, right?
Yeah,
Just like in your
exactly.
t-shirt. And the idea is you're the idea is you're going to lay this down and
Yeah.
it has a directional strength. You'll see from the lines, right?
Exactly.
And that's called the orientation. And you want to lay it up kind of like quasi-isotropic in a sense. So we're going to lay up one in a certain direction and then another in another direction to counterbalance the tensile strength.
Yeah.
Then what we'll do is we'll take the polyvinyl alcohol and put it onto a surface, we use a glass plate for some of our videos, and this will act as a release agent. So the polyvinyl alcohol will allow you to cure what we called earlier the super glue
Yeah.
over this, and it still won't stick to that surface. You can pull it right off.
Okay.
Oh, so ages ago when SpaceX were trying to build their big Falcon rocket from carbon, they had a
Yeah.
giant layup tool.
Yeah.
Like this giant round thing. So you would
Okay.
put this on the layup tool and then start laying down the fiber so that when it's ready, you can just pop it off.
Yeah, exactly. So same industry application. These are more consumer friendly. We use Easy Composites. They've been so good to us, and we push all of our members to order from them. You know, they're based out of the UK, but they get stuff to us in like 2-3 days.
What?
I think it's amazing.
How's that possible?
We ordered from like 9 different companies, and they got here first. So
Nice.
you have different things like a mixing pot and laminating brushes. There are 2 different types of, there's a resin and a hardener. You put in the resin to the cup, and then you add the hardener, and it catalyzes it. And then you have like a time window where it's going to cure, it's going to become very hard, and you have to apply it to the material with the brush.
Got it.
Then when it hardens, thanks to the PVA, you peel it right off, and you have a carbon panel.
And in the course, I'm assuming there's like a video instruction kind of walking you through everything.
Yeah, there's tons, yeah.
And then after, so let's say they do that process, and then what can you do with it after that, besides have a slab of carbon composite?
You can use it as a mouse pad.
Oh,
They
okay.
work great. Surprisingly, I was just joking with my friend. He's on YouTube, Sean Duras. We were joking about making carbon fiber mouse pads, and we made one, and it reacts so quickly.
Oh, it's like super sensitive.
It's extremely sensitive. I didn't think that it would work well, but yeah. So
Okay.
you could use it for a lot of different things. You can cut a body panel out of your car and then poorly put it into that. I don't recommend that. But
Okay.
Yeah.
But an idea nonetheless.
We have a question from Healer pausing in the chat room saying, I believe it had to be heated. So do you have to bake the carbon?
Yeah, so there's different types of resin systems. That's a good question. Different types of resin systems. This one has its own kind of like exothermic reaction. When you mix those two chemicals, they catalyze and they create a cure process within just those materials. So this would be called a wet layup. What you're thinking of most likely is pre-preg. So there's another type of carbon where you'll get the materials. They'll come out of a freezer typically, and they're previously impregnated. Pre-preg. We use that in aerospace.
Pre-preg.
Yeah.
Love it.
So the material has the resin already in it. And you just lay it up, and then you vacuum bag it down. You suck all the air out, and then you add it to essentially a giant pressure cooker, which is called an autoclave, which is used also in the medical field. So those have to be heated. The ones that have two different chemicals in a wet layup won't really need to be heated because they have their own cataclysmic reaction.
Got it.
I really just want to make like a...
This is your guys's. You can make anything you want with it.
Wait,
so.
really?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
So we should leave
we
it up to
doing?
the community to decide what we should make with our carbon fiber. So make sure you leave a comment below on what you think we should build, and then we'll probably stream it because that's what we do best.
Heck yeah.
Or maybe that's, yeah.
I think that's an absolute, we should definitely do that. Oh my God, thank you so much. Because I was, and I've mentioned on the show before, I don't come from a technical background.
Okay.
As I work with engineers, I really just wish it makes me wish I did go to school for something in engineering. But you know, we're kind of, there's different things that intimidate people away
Right.
from the STEM,
Sure.
particularly engineering. It's very, you know, but something like this gets me very excited for it. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm going to become a carbon composite engineer now. How about that? How cool.
And that's the cool thing. I think that's why this is so important. It's because there are people out there that aren't necessarily working in technical fields. Like they might not be an engineer. Maybe they're a banker and they get a hands-on project like this where they can actually realize, you know what? Working with carbon fiber and composite materials is not that hard.
It's not as
Right.
intimidating
Right.
as
And-
one would think.
Once you actually get to hands-on experience this, that might be that stepping stone that you need to go and pursue this as
Exactly.
a career.
Yeah.
I think that is really, really important.
Yeah.
It might even be important for people of a higher age than we are.
Enterprise
currently.
learners.
Yeah.
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 James Atchison in the chat says, what about older people like in their 50s or older?
Yeah, it's a good question. So one time I was looking at like the analytics of how old the people that currently our members are.
Yeah.
And we have like about like a cumulative 12,000 members or so.
Oh my goodness.
And about 18 to 22% of them are over 50.
That's wonderful.
I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And when I was at Boeing, especially in the field of robotics, this field was really built by people in the 70s and 80s, robotics was. And they're near retirement age now, and the rate of technology developing so quick,
Yeah.
they have about 10 years, 5 years left before they want to retire, and they want to learn the latest and greatest skill sets. The beautiful thing about what we do here is like anybody with no background knowledge and no prerequisites or anything, there's like anybody can sign up. So it's really open, open education.
What about your global reach? Are most of your members from the US, or do you
Yeah.
kind of see a global audience?
So I don't know how, but we, I guess word of mouth, we've never marketed anything or done any marketing, but we have at least 10 members in 90 countries. And the top 4 are United States, Australia, and the United Kingdom and India. I thought that was incredible.
Yeah.
So
And how do you find your instructors?
the instructors are a combination of just networking in industry, really. So
Yeah.
like one example is like one place I used to work at, I met one of the senior composites engineers for Lockheed Martin. And this gentleman, Paul Riney, he's on the patents for the Joint Strike Fighter. He's on like every advanced manufacturing project for automated fiber placement and composites. And I just reached out to him and basically said, hey, do you want to help take all of the knowledge that you see in industry and give it to everybody in the world?
Heck yeah.
Also, like, I'll pay you.
Yeah. Also, you'll get
And yeah, now he's on the carbon course. So there's a podcast with him giving all of his insights and his journey and his like kind of history with the materials since the 70s.
So you really do have these technical people in industry, in aerospace companies, building real space hardware that helps
That is the point.
and
Yeah.
mentor.
100%.
It's like you're cutting out the middleman in a way, because it's directly from industry to student, and that's got to be
Exactly.
have you got the attention of like different industries, different corporations, like, hey, we love what you're doing, because talent acquisition can be a very expensive and lengthy process.
Yeah.
It's not the most efficient to go through the universities. So yeah, have you gotten like attention from companies like that?
Yes, yeah. So we're always working with like different companies and seeing how we can provide the most value, because like you said, talent it's a significantly difficult problem, but it's a weird problem because it's not like people don't want to work at these jobs, right?
Exactly.
I don't talk to many people who are graduating with their degree or that just work generally in aerospace that don't want to work at Lockheed Martin, like a phenomenal company like that.
Absolutely.
Or SpaceX or Virgin Orbit, any of these just incredible companies. There aren't a lot of people that don't want to work for them. And then at the same time, these companies, you look at Lockheed Martin, they have right now 6,928 job openings right on their website.
You just know that.
Wait,
Off the top of your head.
6,000?
928, yeah. And so the top, there's two primary categories. It's engineers and analysts. Those are the top two. And within each of those, there are three subsets. So on engineer side, it's quality engineers, field service engineers, people who go out and service machines, and systems engineering, which is that's a huge category on its own. And then on the other side, it's analysts. And within that, there are supply chain analysis, like people who work by identifying, maybe problems in their supply chain. That company has such a big supply chain. They employ so many people total. And then there are IT analysts and financial analysts. So those are the top 6 jobs that represent that large of pool. So if you guys ever want to go through that, I'll share the data with you guys. It's just off their website, and Glassdoor and all the different things.
I just love that another one of those huge needs that they have is like finance and IT analysts and stuff like that.
It's huge.
It's not necessarily like you don't necessarily have to be an engineer or doing these technical skills to get into those companies.
Yeah.
Which is, that's
So
pretty cool.
we actually met in Dubai.
Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. And so that was at Global Space Congress. The year before that, I was at Global Aerospace Summit, and I was speaking about the talent problem and how we need not like saying this is going to be the only solution to it, just that we need more solutions. The person that spoke right after me was Marilyn Hewson, which is Lockheed Martin's CEO. And she gave a 90-minute speech on how they need more technical talent, just in all forms, all shapes, sizes, all the way around the world. Like we need more people who can perform different skill sets, right? And it's going to be difficult to put back in there. You might just put it in the box.
I just want it to stay pristine.
So when
mind me.
she came up off the stage, I was next to who became the advisor of the project and a mentor, Steve Sargent. So he kind of bumped my shoulder and was like, "Here's your shot." And I just stood up and walked straight for her. And
amazing.
The CEO of Lockheed.
Yeah.
Thank
And I basically walked up and said, "Hi, Marilyn. I said, like, I work for you." And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "I work for you because, I'm working on this startup and we provide talent to you like endlessly. And we actually take all the courses that stay, all the roles that stay open for the longest, and we reverse engineers the skills that you can't find people with and create opportunities for people to learn those to fill those jobs at your company." And she loved the idea. And she said, "I need you to sit down immediately with this gentleman, Rod Mikowski, who's the senior vice president of, I believe, he has many different roles, so a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But yeah, she wrote down the contact info and then handed his information over, and yeah. So ultimately, what we would love to do is just partner with companies that have a need for talent, that have a need for training on different seemingly esoteric skill sets, and help just connect the two sides of the problem, which is people want to work at these amazing companies, and the amazing companies need people that have the different technical skill sets.
And so do you have any partnerships in place with Lockheed? I know you've also worked with Virgin Orbit before. Any partnerships with them?
Yeah, so my partnership is kind of like a loose terminology, people that you work with regularly, kind of. So Lockheed Martin, we're still having conversations with them. There's a lot of just incredibly smart people there, but it is a very big company. You know, it takes a long time to talk through all the different channels. And Virgin Orbit, so they're based out of Long Beach here as well. And like, let me tell you, that company, that's just such a great company. Like, the quality of life when you walk through the factory.
Yes.
Right.
Everyone's so happy.
So happy.
And it's so different from other aerospace companies where everybody's a little
gray.
sad.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely.
So good. So you walk through and it's like, do you want coffee? Do you want snacks? Like, we got you breakfast, and it's like
camaraderie. Everybody's just stoked to be there.
Yeah.
Energy's like up here.
It's huge, huge.
It's amazing.
They found OpenX, and they actually brought us on, and we trained every composite engineer at their company on the advanced skill set of Fibre Sim, which is Fibre Simulator. It's owned by now Siemens, who owns NX Unigraphics, the CAD software. So we trained all their engineers. It was about 30 of them, and helped provide essentially talent to their workforce. So yeah, that was good. So.
Where do you see OpenX expanding into next? You know, you've got your Composites courses. You've got like five courses currently now.
Yeah.
So what skill sets will you work on next?
Yeah, so what we want to do is we're taking, kind of like with that data from Lockheed Martin, all of the companies in the United States, and extracting out all of the jobs that have been sitting open for the longest. We built a data extraction tool that pulls from all of the career boards on all major companies. For the sake of just like being able to penetrate a market successfully because of the knowledge we have, we're going to focus on aerospace to begin, but we really see it evolving into general technology, automotive, and really everything else.
Absolutely.
So the next steps will be different CAD courses like SolidWorks and NX Unigraphics. We're going to make a fleet of different programming courses that are only going to be like $5, like Python programming, C++. These are basics that I think everybody should have the opportunity to have, right? Like, and then every course we make, we have kind of a different approach. So somebody said at that event we were at, Global Space Congress, they were like, online courses only have a 2% completion rate. And I was like, that's interesting, because I read all the papers, as many as I can, and I've never seen anything that says 2% completion rate. But what I found was there was like a 6% from a free online course that was like 15 minutes long. I was like, What we do with all of our courses to keep engagement really high is we turn it into like a documentary. And when you join it, there are different videos that tell you a story of how you're connected to a bigger part of humanity through learning this skill set. The computer-aided design course, CATIA, when people join that course, it's like you're learning about different incredible innovations in humanity. The Falcon 9, the Falcon Heavy, the space station, everything. All of these different incredible projects were made in a CAD system, in computer-aided design. It doesn't happen on pen and paper like it used to. So we tell this story and connect people to that technology, because I believe when you're passionate about something, you can really learn it best. And with that, we really haven't had anybody who has started a course and not finished the content that's provided.
Yeah.
At least not before we add more and more and more stuff to it. So.
Wow. That's to get that amount of engagement and success is really commendable.
And to make it so just relevant and so, like
enjoyable.
You said, cultivating their passions for it. I mean, I think that's a model that should be adopted into high school and even before. Because, I mean, talk about how much just general student engagement would skyrocket if you were to connect it to a bigger story, a bigger picture.
Yeah.
So that's very commendable.
In school, I remember I would like sit there and I was thinking like, when am I ever going to use this? Like, why is this important? I don't get it, right?
Yeah.
And my ADD would just thrive because I'd be thinking of everything else. So being able to just like, in the robotics course, we talk about, it actually starts off with this kind of like horror beginning. It's like what people imagine robotics are like. And it's like, Terminator, Skynet, and Boston Dynamics, and
the wonky,
But then it pivots out and it's like, but that's not actually what robotics are like. And it shows more of what industry's like. It's just really like a 6 degree of freedom arm, or what's called a delta robot that has 4 basic legs that pick and place different items on a conveyor belt. And like that kind of paradigm shift from what we think robotics are to what they actually are, and telling it through a story cinematically. We have a new head of cinema or content, Jeffrey Lethiam, and he's phenomenal at just storytelling.
Wow.
It's like what he does. So
I think we both recognize here at Tomorrow that storytelling is really quite important, and it's kind of, without a story, you're never going to hold people's interest. So if you can tell a story about things such as technical as composites or CAD or you know, how to program a CNC machine, I think again it's super commendable. But let's go a little bit even further into the future. You've got the courses that you have now, but what's your ultimate vision for what OpenX Education can provide our society to get people learning these skills that will eventually help humanity get to live and work and thrive in space?
Yeah, so ultimately what I envision it becoming is, when I started out, I didn't have fast internet at home, and I didn't have like a really good place where I could just sit down and like focus, right? And where I found kind of comfort and my ability to grow was Starbucks cafes, which have their pluses and their minuses, right? And what I really envision OpenX becoming is kind of this community hub where you go to any major or minor city around the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, India, Japan, everywhere. And you can find a coffee shop where you can go in and get fast Wi-Fi for free. You can enjoy a reasonably priced like cup of coffee, just like, you know, be comfortable. But at the same time, across all the walls, there are starter kits, and there are different categories in the room with different technologies, whether it's computers that are loaded with the greatest CAD systems like CATIA and NX Unigraphics. There are small robots that anybody can program right there and learn. There are just opportunities in this community learning center, and we call it an open cafe.
Yeah.
So it's a portal to connect communities to companies. And the curriculum is built off of what companies there are within 50 miles and what their needs are. So if there's Boeing and Lockheed, two incredible companies in this one region, then their largest job openings or the products they develop there, the skills that they focus on, would be what is taught at that community. And anybody can walk in and essentially have a gym for your brain.
Oh, I love that.
Oh my goodness. Oh. I hope that's how you market it as well. A gym for your brain. Oh my goodness.
I would definitely go.
I'd be there like every day. Be like, all right, I'm going to go to the gym, and then I'm going to my brain gym.
Yeah. So for people at home that maybe want to take these courses or get involved, especially people overseas as well, Raj Luther is asking if people overseas can do these courses. Where can they go? Where can they find out more information about you?
Just our website, openxeducation.com. And then we actually have like a really big community. It's a Facebook group. So that's actually how the project started, OpenX, was when we were beginning, I just made this Facebook group, and I was working at Boeing when I was 21. And basically I had a lot of friends, because I'm into cars, I bought a GTR, and they were wondering, like, how did you buy a GTR at like 20? And I just told them, if you can learn an advanced skill set and get into one of these well-paying jobs, then, you know, I'm not saying it's a good decision to buy a GTR, but that's kind of like how I did it.
Yeah.
And we made this Facebook group, and the idea was we had like 70 members, and I cold called companies, training companies. And my number one focus was CATIA, because it's such an underrated skill. Like, if you know CATIA, you can, and if you market it right, you can get into a lot of different jobs, a lot of different opportunities. I cold called training companies, and the price for training for just the basics, and it was like a 5-day course, was like $3,000 to $5,000. Right? And I told them, one of them had an online learning one, and I said, if I can get you 10 times the amount of people, just this one time, would you lower it by 10 times, about 90% or so? So one order of magnitude. And they said, yeah, if you can get 10 times the amount of people, they were getting like 12 people a month or something. So I said, okay, 120 people. And we called it a group buy. So that's actually an old, it's a Chinese bartering trick. Group buying something at a marketplace. So we grouped together 120 people, and I went back to the company in like 2 weeks.
My goodness.
And I called them, and I was like, okay, I got 120 people. They'll buy it for, it was like $399 instead of like $4,000.
It's like Costco, but for education.
Absolutely. I mean, this is so, yeah.
So there was this guy, Michael Cirillo, and he just came back from serving in the US military, and he got medically disqualified, and he was back in Ohio. And in Ohio, there aren't a lot of opportunities to learn things. So when I heard about his story and how he's trying to find a great career, we grouped together the group did, and we said, you know what, we're going to sponsor your portion, and we're going to get it so you can take this course. Because I think that if you're serious about this, if you're going to learn this skill and you're going to apply at jobs, there are a lot in Ohio. So he took the course, he finished it, and I believe within 5 weeks, which is incredible, he landed a job for like $30 an hour at this incredible aerospace company. And he was able to like kind of reassemble everything and live a really healthy, good life. So
good.
I still talk to Mike, and yeah, it's just that kind of stuff. It takes a lot of effort because I do all of this after work, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, those success stories.
Even that one success story that shows, you know, if this is really your dream and you want to do it, you can take these kind of courses and change your life in 5 weeks, was it?
Well, that was, one scenario, yeah. If somebody's driven enough, the weeks or the months, it varies significantly because of people's effort and their engagement to it and their way to communicate it.
Yeah.
So like what one person can do in 6 or 12 weeks, another person could do in 6 or 12 days. But at the same time, another person would do in 6 or 12 months.
Yeah.
And it's important to emphasize too that we all have our own timelines.
Absolutely.
And there's no use in comparing to somebody who does it in 6 days.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own life. So
exactly.
working at your own pace, this is why we don't pay attention to really like completion rates or like how long it takes for someone to finish it. That's their life, their journey. What we focus on is that they have everything they need. All the courses, once you get it once, you own it for life. And it's available 24/7. So you could log in at 1 a.m. for 5 minutes or the next week or anything. Really, we just want to provide people with all the tools that they can set up themselves with. So.
Wow. Well, Cody, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
And telling our viewers, you know, this really amazing resource that you can use if you're interested in these kind of hands-on aerospace skills. If you want to get yourself a carbon kit, go on and check out their website, OpenXEducation.com. We're going to be building this kit here at the Tomorrow Studios. I don't know what we're going to make yet. But you guys are voting on it. Someone said electron rocket. Someone said a carbon fiber tiara.
What if we make a carbon fiber cat bed?
We could do that.
For Senor Rogers.
But again, thank you so much for coming on and telling us how we're going to train the aerospace generation of the future.
Gen.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, no worries. And before we go, we do want to give a big shout out to our Patreon supporters. We couldn't do this without you. Jade, do you want to give me a shout out?
I'm sorry, where am I looking? Yeah, absolutely. We would love to thank all of you folks who make this show possible and allow us to interview wonderful folks such as we did today. So, of course, there's different tiers. You can donate however you feel comfortable. You can head on over to patreon.com/TMRO. And if you can't donate monetarily, then you can absolutely support us in many other ways, such as smashing that subscribe button, hitting that like, sharing us with your closest friends and family, and of course, tuning in every Saturday. We absolutely love to have you here. You're a great community. And big ol' thank you. And I think on that note, we are ready to say goodbye. So thank you for joining us. This was a lovely conversation. Leave a comment below about how you felt about today's show, and we'll see you next weekend.
Bye.